Hi guys, this is Sheldon Carlos. On today's video, I'm going to give you my review of episode 4 of season 1 of The Big Bang Theory. The golden fish poncho and a mom's peach love cobbler or peach love cobbler. So here we go, guys. This is my number 2. This is my number 3. Yes, this is my number 2. My second favorite episode of season 1 of The Big Bang Theory, and here's why. Again, this is my first two-sided episode of The Big Bang Theory. So here we go, guys. First side. It involves Sheldon, and a little bit with Leonard too, but mostly Sheldon. Okay, the episode starts with the episode. Basically, this is the episode. Caltech, the university where Sheldon, Raj, Leonard, and Howard work. They're welcoming a new director of the physics department and the whole Caltech department of physics and everything else involved with, and of course physics brothers and sisters, meaning spatial engineering and so forth and so on. The new director's name for Caltech is Dr. Gablehauser. Now, Sheldon doesn't have a very good resume. Good resume. Look at Dr. Gablehauser. Sheldon thinks that Dr. Gablehauser's contribution to physics and science overall is a tasty chicken, meaning that he's not a good scientist. But Leonard tells Sheldon to give Dr. Gablehauser a chance and to behave or to be nice to him when we meet him and when we introduce ourselves with Raj and Howard at his welcoming banquet, welcoming lunch, and of course Sheldon says, I'll try. I'll try to be nice to him. How about this, Leonard? Dr. Gablehauser, thank you for a small contribution. Thank you for your small contribution. Your small contribution to science, but your small contribution to our science is a total bubblegum bomb to the scientific community. How is that, Leonard? Sheldon says, and Leonard's like, don't say that to him. And then Sheldon says, what about did you know, Leonard, that in the Hawaiian alphabet there's six vowels six vowels six vowels, and then Leonard says you should lead with that. Then we cut. Then we see the guys, meaning Sheldon, Leonard, and Rod, at the banquet welcoming lunch for Dr. Gablehauser. Then they see then the three of them, Rod, Leonard, and Sheldon, see Howard come in with a very spectacular date, which they think, all three of them think that Howard made his basic, a very spectacular, pretty date, and all three of them think that Howard has basically perfected his obsession with robotics, but that's not the case. Yes, Howard introduces himself, says hi to the guys, to Rod, Leonard, and Sheldon, and says, "Guys, what up, my nerds? Guys, this is summer. And of course, all three of them, Rod, Leonard, and Sheldon, say hi. Nice to meet you, Summer. And of course, Howard tries to hold or touch Summer's dress, but Summer had made a deal with Howard that she would go to Dr. Gable's welcoming lunch banquet, but he wouldn't be able to touch her or hold her hand, or, like I said, be able to touch her dress, which was a pretty turquoise ocean blue, Fiji, Tahiti water blue. Then Dr. Gablehauser approaches Howard, Raj, Leonard, and Sheldon, and introduces himself. And of course, Leonard, and Raj and Howard say, "Hi, Dr. Gablehauser," and they introduce themselves as Doctor, Dr. Leonard Hofstadter, and everything else. But Sheldon does the same thing, the first thing exactly perfectly, like the three of them. But he says to Dr. Gablehauser, "Dr. Sheldon Cooper, a real scientist. Unlike you," even though he didn't say unlike you, but I'm saying that in a subtext way. Then then we get the biggest shock of the episode. Sheldon gets fired by Dr. Gablehauser, but we don't see the actual firing. All we but we know that Sheldon gets fired. Sheldon gets fired by Dr. Gablehauser from Caltech by Sheldon's mouth, by Sheldon's own mouth and words, and Sheldon can't believe it. He can't believe a 1985 that Dr. Gablehauser fired him. And of course Leonard tells him, I bet you if you apologize to Dr. Gablehauser, I bet he will give you your flux capacitor of a job back. And of course Sheldon back in the apartment says Leonard, I'm happy that I got fired because I haven't had a break. I haven't had a vacation / break from work since college. Or maybe because when I was 5, I was in the 5th grade. When I was 11, I was in college. I finished college pretty quick. Then up to now, which current date. So Leonard, I'm going to enjoy my time off. So that was it. That was the plan. Then the next morning, Leonard is about to leave to go to work at Caltech. But then he sees Sheldon making eggs for breakfast. Then Sheldon says, I'm not making breakfast. I'm not making eggs for myself or for breakfast in general. I'm doing a study on eggs of how well eggs, unused eggs, and how newer eggs taste better than used eggs and unused eggs. And of course, Leonard says, again, Leonard tells Sheldon, again, just like the day before, I bet if you apologize to Dr. Gablehauser, he will give your job back. And of course, Sheldon says, no, I'm not gonna bow down to scientific empire of Gablehauser. And of course, then Leonard says, okay, I'll leave you with your eggs. Then we see Sheldon take a before picture of or photo of one of his egg plates, which would be the used eggs. And he tasted them, and he tasted the used eggs, but then he realized after tasting them that these were used eggs, but way used eggs, meaning that they were old and tasted moldy and tasted like very, very, very old. So he wrote on his notepad, use new eggs. Then in a funny twist of nerdy tragedy for Penny's sake, she was being a good neighbor and asked Sheldon, do you guys need anything? Meaning you and Leonard slash Howard and Rod from the supermarket. And of course Sheldon said to Penny, well, Penny, you're in luck, because I think you would call this a lucky coincidence. A lucky coincidence. Yes, I do. I need eggs distributed by size. Small, large, white eggs, brown eggs, jumbo. Then he said, Penny, forget it. You're not gonna remember all those details. Let me come with you. And of course, let me come with you. Then Penny's like, yay! She's like, yay! An unhappy, sad yay, because she knew that this was going to be a yoke of a day with Sheldon. To make matters worse for Penny, she and Sheldon drove in her car to the supermarket. So in Penny's car, Sheldon was like, slow down, Penny, because if you don't slow down, we're gonna become a crushed trash can on wheels. Before Sheldon said that, Penny asked him. Penny asked Sheldon, why didn't you go to work today? And of course Sheldon was like, because I didn't want to work with inferior minds today. And then Penny was like, you got blasted. You got Death Star, meaning you got fired. And Leonard and Sheldon was like, no. And then Penny was like, Sheldon. Then Sheldon, without saying okay, yes, he said, yes, I got Death Star. So then Sheldon said what I told you guys before about to Penny, that she was going way too fast, and that they were going to be becoming a crushed trash can on wheels. Then Penny said, well, Sheldon, like I always said, when a door closes, another one opens. Then Sheldon was like, how is that? How is that going? That doesn't make any sense, because for a door to be closed, I need to close it. And for for another door to open, I need to attach a trigger, a set of triggers or trigger buttons to open said door. Then Penny was like, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. And she said, forget it. Meanwhile, inside the store, Sheldon was like to Penny, did you know? Do you want to know something fun? That tomatoes are fruits, but in this supermarket and supermarkets everywhere, they put them with the fruit when tomatoes are not actually a fruit. Then another twist of funny tragedy for Penny's sake. She is looking at the vitamin section of the supermarket when Sheldon says, Penny, you're looking for the wrong vitamins. If you want to keep your body right, and your love tango engine right. Your love tango engine right. Then Penny was like, what? Then Sheldon was like, Penny, you're looking for vitamins right now that have the color of urine, and you don't want that. You want super strength vitamins for your body and for your love tango and for your love tango engine. If you get what I mean, you know what I mean, guys and girls. You know what I mean. 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 Girls. And then we see Penny and Sheldon back or on their way back to the from the supermarket, and of course Sheldon tells Penny, I had fun today. I hope that we get to do this again, and are we still up for mini golf? And Penny's like, I had a great day. I had a fun time with you too, Sheldon. She was like, she's saying that, of course, she means this in a sarcastic way. Then we fast forward a few days, and Leonard sees Sheldon working not on his egg study, but working on a different thing, and this time involving fish. And Sheldon's new obsession, or new idea or new experiment is the future of lighting, meaning fish night lights. Yes, real fish night lights. Yes, real fish night lights. Sheldon read a study that a couple of scientists or several scientists took the lighting chemical that jellyfish produce that makes them light up into light up like we see them now. And these scientists injected the lighting chemical that is found in jellyfish, and injected a few fish with the lighting chemical that makes jellyfish light up, and they found success. And he said, and then Sheldon says to Leonard, we're going to be rich. We're going to be rich. You're rich. And then Leonard is now worried is not only saying you should apologize to Dr. Gatehouse but now he's actually starting to get worried. Now he's starting to get worried. Then Sheldon says, "Oh my God! What about glow in the dark lady accessories?" Again, girls, if you know what I mean by that. Then 2 days later, Leonard calls Mrs. Cooper, meaning Sheldon's mom, and basically Leonard says to Mrs. Cooper, to Mary Cooper, Mrs. Cooper, that Sheldon has lost his focus, that he has become a stormtrooper without the helmet, but crazy nonetheless. And Mrs. C or Mrs. Cooper says to Leonard, I raised Sheldon. I have seen it all. Or I know my son. He's not crazy. He's not crazy. Okay? Sorry guys, he's not crazy. He's not crazy, but to Mrs. Cooper's surprise, Leonard was right. Leonard was right. Oh, okay. Leonard to to Mrs. Cooper's to Mrs. Cooper's to Mrs. Cooper's to Mrs. Cooper's surprise, Leonard was right. And when Mrs. Cooper saw her son, meaning Sheldon, he was wearing a poncho. He was knitting a poncho. And of course, Sheldon was surprised by this. Was surprised by his mom, and Leonard calling his mom, and then Mrs. Cooper told her son Sheldon that your little friend, meaning Leonard, is worried about you. Then Sheldon was like, Mom, no, nothing's wrong with me. I went to the market with Penny. Then Leonard was like, that was 3 weeks ago. One of the greatest minds in the whole entire universe, and maybe Krypton is losing it, making a poncho, making sarabes or ponchos. Then we see Leonard and Sheldon get into a poncho serape debate, and then Sheldon says that that's no reason to call someone's mother, meaning Mrs. Cooper, his mom. Then Sheldon storms off like Thor, and goes into his room. Then goes to his room and slams the door. Then Leonard says to Mrs. Cooper, "What are we going to do with Sheldon?" Sheldon. Then Mrs. Cooper says, subtextually, of course, give him time. Give Sheldon time. He will come out of this. He will come out of this soon. Then the next day later, everyone is in the apartment. Penny, Howard, Raj, and of course Leonard, and of course Howard tries to be romantic with Mrs. Cooper and basically says, my, I see how Sheldon is so good looking because of you. And then Mrs. Cooper says, you keep trying. And then Penny says, has Shelley acted this crazy before without saying the word crazy? And then Mrs. Cooper says, of course. He might be in his room until an atomic bomb destroys his room. And then of course Mrs. Cooper has an interaction with Raj and says, I hope that me cooking fried chicken, fried chicken. I hope that chicken is to you, to your wonderful culture of of your wonderful country of India. Chicken, I hope it's not a sacred animal. And guys, to give you a little bit of context, in the wonderful country of India, people believe when you die, you obviously you go to heaven, but you come back. You come back in a form of an animal, like a cow, and so on and so forth. So that's why Mrs. Cooper was like, to Rod, I hope that chicken is not one of your animals with magic powers, meaning incarnating powers. Then Mrs. Cooper tells everyone to sit and to grab a plate and to grab a nice placemat that Shelley made before slamming the door and getting Matta's door of his room. Then Mrs. Cooper says, "Let's see." Then she does. Then she says she does a prayer. And here's the unique part about Sheldon's relationship with his mom. Sheldon doesn't believe that there's a big G. He doesn't believe in the big G. He doesn't believe in the big G. Meanwhile, Mrs. Cooper does believe in the big G. And it's a funny loving relationship between mother and son. Sometimes it turns into a WWE street fight, but either way, but at the end of the day, they love each other. And then Mrs. Cooper gives a prayer to the food and tells Rod and Howard, you are welcome to jump into the prayer and say amen. And of course, this comment is a little bit funny because it makes Rod and Howard uncomfortable, funny uncomfortable, and basically then Mrs. Cooper tells a small similar story to the current situation that Leonard finds himself in, worried about Sheldon's mental state, and wondering if he's going to snap out of it. And Mrs. Cooper says he once baked a yellow cake made out of uranium, and then the And then the government came to our house back in Texas, and of course the government agent said to Shelley that you can't make your own uranium and bake it into a cake. Of course, Shelley or Sheldon didn't like that, and he started to cry. He started to get an angry cry out of it, and then that was it. Then Mrs. Cooper could feel that there was a romantic tension between Penny and Leonard, between Leonard and Penny, and then Mrs. Cooper said, you two would make a cute couple together. And of course, Leonard and Penny were like, we are just friends, like a cup of movie theater cheese. And then Mrs. Cooper asked Howard, did I hit a funky spot, and and of course Howard says, oh yeah. Then all of a sudden Sheldon comes out of his room, and then Howard tries to say, hey Sheldon, and then Mrs. Cooper says, shh, be quiet. You have to let Sheldon come to you. He's like Bambi. He's like Bambi. If you ask him to tell him, if you say hey, or give him a vocal signal that to come, you're going to scare him. And then Leonard was like, then Leonard was like to Sheldon, dude, stop being a mad Thor about this. Get your mind on the green. Follow Green Lantern's ring. Meaning, snap out of it, Sheldon. Then of course, Sheldon ran away, or ran back to his bedroom, and then Mrs. Cooper tells Leonard, you don't know how to deal with the Empire. Meaning you're not a good hunter. Meaning you don't hunt. You don't hunt, do you? In Star Wars terms. Then the next morning, after the dinner, after everyone had dinner except for Sheldon. After everyone had dinner and dessert except for and Sheldon did have dinner, but by himself in his room. The next morning, Mrs. Cooper comes into Sheldon's room and says, says to Sheldon, you know, remember what your dad used to say when he went fishing? You can wait so long for a fish to bite on the hook before you have to throw a stick of dynamite into the pond or lake. Well, Sheldon, I'm done fishing. I'm throwing the stick of dynamite. Now, go get. Now, I want you to get dressed, and get your job back. Get your job back. Get your job back. And then Sheldon says, Mom, no, I'm not getting my job back. I'm not going back to work. I'm not going back to work. And then Mrs. Cooper, did what I say? Did what I just say to include if it pleases your highness? If it pleases you, mighty king? No. Get dressed. Now, I have told you before. When you were little. When you were little, when you were about 6 or 8 or even 11, that you can't go you can't go around and be a smarty pants all the time. Remember all the steel chairs that you got from our neighbors, meaning beatings from our neighbors? And then Sheldon says yes, but it wouldn't have happened. These steel chairs, meaning beatings from the neighbors, wouldn't have happened if my death ray had worked. Yes, guys, Sheldon apparently had built when he was younger an actual death ray to basically fight off his neighbor bullies. And then Sheldon said to his mom, "All right, Mom, right, all right." Then we see Dr. Gablehauser working in his new office. And then we see Mrs. Cooper knock on the door and come and basically half coming in and says to Sheldon, "Hey, Dr. Gablehauser is just doodling Yoda, doodling stuff on the whiteboard." Then Dr. Gablehauser, then Sheldon says, "Hi, Dr. Gablehauser. I just wanted to apologize for what I said to you. And that we got started on the right foot, on the wrong foot in our relationship. And yes, I know that you're a good scientist, and I know that you're a good scientist. I know that you might be a good scientist, even though I think that you're even a bad scientist. I have to respect you." Then Dr. Gablehauser all of a sudden says, "Well, thank you, Sheldon." Then he turns his focus on on Mrs. Cooper and says, my, Sheldon, you didn't tell me that you had a beautiful sister, and then Mrs. Cooper says to Dr. Gablehauser, I'm not Sheldon's sister. I'm actually his mom. Then Dr. Gablehauser says, Really, Mrs. Cooper, are you married? And then Mrs. Cooper says, I was. And then Dr. Gablehauser says, Did your husband become a unglowing lightsaber, meaning did he die? Is he dead? And of course Mrs. Cooper says, long enough. It's been long enough. Then Dr. Gablehauser sees that Sheldon is still in his office and says to Sheldon, run along now, meaning now you can go back to work. Then Sheldon says, okay, an awkward okay, and he opens the door to Dr. Gablehouse's office and closes it, and then we see Leonard asking Sheldon, how did it go? And Sheldon says, I got my job back, but in the most unique way. I don't understand it, but it's something that about the human condition that I can't fully grasp it. And then to finish this funny fourth episode, Leonard says, well, that basically makes it a short list. Basically saying that narrows it down, and that's how guys, this wonderful fourth and eggy episode ends of the first season of The Big Bang Theory. So with that being said, guys, let me know in the comments if you want to, what part of this fourth episode of season 1 of the Big Bang Theory did you like? And have you gone crazy? Have you gone super crazy for eggs? Crazy for eggs like Sheldon did in this episode? And did you ever get fired before from a job or from something else, work related, or a non-working thing? So with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. Remember to leave a like, and Wakanda forever. Bye.